I'm Marianne De Leon. I'm the CEO of the Texas Book Festival, and it is my great pleasure to welcome back to Texas Jenna Bush Hager, to the Texas Book Festival, a place that exists only because of her family's belief in the power of books and community. As many of you know, the festival was founded by her mom, former First Lady Laura Bush, 30 years ago to celebrate reading and the stories that connect us all. Today, Jenna continues that legacy with the launch of her new literary imprint and its first publication, of course, the wonderful new book, Conform by Ariel Sullivan. Some praise for Ariel's book. Compulsively readable and vividly written, it kept me awake long past my bedtime. An irresistible romantic debut with a love triangle that will have you picking sides and changing sides and then changing sides again. Moderating the discussion is our Texas Book Festival Literary Director, Hannah Gable, and underwriting this session is a company that has been involved with the Texas Book Festival as long as the Bush family, Frost Bank. Thank you to Frost. Please join me in welcoming Jenna Bush, Ariel Sullivan, and Hannah Gable.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and our wonderful guests. We're so happy to have you all here.
Thank you guys so much. I cannot believe that 30 years ago, and now I'm going to answer your question before, this is, unfortunately, I've apologized to every moderator we've ever had because I just moderate the moderator. But thank you so much for having us, and I really am so nostalgic to be back in Austin at the festival my mom founded 30 years ago, and it's just remarkable that there is still such a platform for literacy and conversation. So thank you so much for all the work you do.
Thank you so much. We're lucky to do it, and we're all happy to be here and to celebrate connecting authors and readers like your mom set out to do when she founded the festival. So I was going to ask you what it means.
Sorry.
That's okay. What it means for you to be here to promote your new imprint, given the fact that your mom started the Texas Book Festival. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it means everything. And many of you that have come to this for the last 30 years on and off know my mom was a librarian, and she believed in the power of books, all books, and conversation and freedom of speech. And so to be one person clap, that's good. But to have the Capitol right here in Texas and to bring authors from all different walks of life, all different genres to the readers themselves has just been a Texas tradition. And then she started the National Book Festival right after she got to Washington, D.C. And the first one was actually the weekend before September 11th. And she said the juxtaposition, of being on the White House or the Capitol ground with all different writers, and what happened the weekend after was hard to hold.
Well, that's a good place to start. Speaking of which, since books bring people together, and like you said, it's something that unites people even in moments when things are not going so great. So what does reading mean to you both? And can you tell us a little bit about how you came to become an avid reader? And
so I grew up a military brat, so I moved every 2 years. And so from a very young age, I started reading. I read The Phantom Tollbooth at 7, 8 and fell in love. And at that point, we were about to move again, and I realized in that move how much reading meant to me, because I was able to take this same story with me as my school changed, my friends changed, my house changed. And so growing up, being like a perpetual new kid, reading for me was really my friend. It was where I went when I felt like I didn't have anybody around me or when I was lonely, and it was a way I could escape everyday life and, dive into somebody else's subconscious and their thoughts and their stories. And so reading for me really was my first friend, and I would say still to this day, one of my best friends.
Talk about how, this is what I do, I apologize.
Go for it, Jenna.
I can't help it. It's so in me at this point that, but
This is your show.
No, it's not. It's not. It's the Texas Book Festival show. But I just know what she says. It's so profound. I can't help but moderate it.
It is profound.
Talk about why moving, like how that helped you as a writer, and then I'll talk about reading. Sorry.
Yes, it is a good point, and so I'm glad to talk about it. But that love of reading and reading the same book over and over again throughout the years, because with every move, I always went back to Harry Potter. It was one of my main ones that I kept with me, and I would dive back in, and I'd go back to Hogwarts, and that allowed me to study in a way that I didn't realize, like studying plots. But for me, it was also this way of holding a place that felt comfortable, because every time I moved, I knew that every single hello was tied to a goodbye. So there was no time for me to really make friends. And unfortunately, as I got older, I stopped trying as hard because it was so difficult to move every 2 years, especially once you become like a preteen and then a teenager. We all know how kids can be. It's not always the most inclusive thing. And so I think what that gave me really started my dream of wanting to write, because I wanted to give that to someone else and to highlight something that I always felt, and hopefully it would connect with another reader that I may have nothing in common with, may not live in the same places and have different life lived experiences, but that they could feel the same things I felt in my life.
And reading for me has been, the biggest joy of my life. And I get to work in it, which is like a dream. And I think, my mom was a librarian. She studied at UT, actually, Library Science School. Her cat was named Dewey when we were born, after the Dewey Decimal System.
Love it.
Yeah. I was like, wow, you were a bachelorette, Mom. But everything, I've realized, everything I really, truly love, my mom has given me, because now I'm a full cat lady, too. And I love those little cats. But anyway, that's an aside. But, reading was her gift to Barbara and to me. And my dad, too. Y'all didn't think he could read, but he could. And in fact, he just sent me a book, Theo of Golden, and 2 days later, he wrote me and was like, have you read it yet? And I'm like, Dad, I've started an Imprint. I'm reading a book every 2 days. I haven't had time to read your book. And he was like, well, get on it. But I think, Ann Patchett always says this, and I hope it's true because I'm surely modeling it in my home, but modeling reading to your children is just as important as reading to them. And so every night before Barbara and I went to bed, my parents were reading in their bed, and we were reading in ours. And I think we cannot let our society be so overtaken with technology that we forget how important that is. Especially since when there was a National Endowment of the Arts, they studied the fact that reading fiction is a direct link to empathy. And we know now more than ever, empathy could really help us out. So if your parents, or grandparents, make sure that your kids aren't just totally absorbed in technology and are remembering that reading is really important too.
So Jenna, I have to ask, have your parents read Conform yet?
I'm like, don't put me on the spot like that. I don't know that it's my dad's cup of tea.
I could see that. That's
Dystomance. But I did send it to my mom, and they're obviously really proud that we get to work in publishing, that through Read with Jenna, hopefully we've shined a spotlight on diverse and debut voices. That was our mission. But the reason we started Thousand Voices, and I keep saying we, but because there are other people that work with me, but I started Thousand Voices is because after 7 years of working via a national book club, I've realized how hard it is for unpublished authors to get published, and then how hard it is in this sort of tech world for authors to get noticed, to break out. And so some even read with Jenna authors who had like a national spotlight, still it's hard for them to get like their second or third book published. And so I felt like I'm so honored that I have the platform that I do via NBC and other avenues, and I wanted to make sure that I could use it to shine a spotlight on talent like Ariel.
So, Ariel, this is your debut novel. Can you give us a little bit of an elevator pitch for Conform for those who haven't read it yet?
Of course. So Conform is a dystopian romance that takes place in a society post a world war where your worth is in your genes, and society's entire purpose is to focus on procreation. There's no family unit, there's no marriage. And it follows Emmeline, who's a 27-year-old minor defect, as she finds herself in a procreation agreement with somebody from the highest level of society, but she then finds herself torn with somebody from the lowest level of society. So she's torn between two men. There's a love triangle, but then it also tackles a lot of today's issues in a fun, approachable way, in my opinion, as she battles a rebellion that's going on, and she has to decide what side she's willing to choose, and what she's willing to sacrifice for that choice.
It's been described as The Hunger Games meets Handmaid's Tale, which I definitely got when I was reading it. It's fabulous. You all got a copy with your ticket purchase, so be sure to read it. Jenna, can you tell us about how you found Conform and why you decided to publish it first?
Yes. So I moved to a new town. I moved out of New York City, which took me about 2 years to be able to say that. So I feel like I've come a long way that I can say that publicly. People would be like, so where do you live? And I'm like, New York. And my husband's like, no, you don't. And so, but the first year that I moved, I had just gotten sort of a newish job. My kids were going to a new school. I have 3 of them, and I also was commuting for the first time. So I basically like put out a referendum where I was like, I can't make friends. My husband was like, wow, you're really friendly, you know? I'm like, I don't have time for any friends. Sort of like moderating the moderator. And so that sounds horrible, but it's true. And so Ariel's son was in my youngest son's class, but we were trying to think last night. I don't think we had ever met because they were also in school from like 8 to
2 hours.
Yeah,
3 hours?
like 8 to 11. And I didn't leave the city anywhere close to even 11, you know, so I couldn't pick him up or take him. And so, but my New Year's resolution after like 4 months in this town was to try to help Hal make some friends. He's the 3rd child, okay? So he came last. But he's my favorite.
We won't
Don't
tell.
tweet that to my daughters. But he loves me the most, okay? So I wrote, Hal had kept talking about a little boy named George, who's Ariel's son, and I wrote, and my husband had just had shoulder surgery, so I really needed to get out of the house. Again, I sound like a really wonderful person. But I had taken care of him for as long as I possibly could. And so I wrote Ariel, and I said, hey, I'm Jenna, I'm Hal's mom. Hal's dying to have George over. Does that work? Sure. Then she writes me back like 30 minutes later, and she's like, I'm 5 minutes late. Does it still work?
I was raised by a military man, so if anybody there, if you're not early, you are late, and it's an anxiety thing I'm working on.
I have it too. And so I was like, yeah, 5 minutes doesn't really shift our plans these days, you know? And she said, I got caught up writing. Like, I'm still headed your way. She arrived. I was like tying my shoelaces to go for a walk because I brought George in and a babysitter for distraction purposes. And she was like, oh, well, George is having a little separation anxiety, so is it cool if I stay? And I was like, oh yeah, you know, slowly undoing my shoelace. And she started talking. I said, so what are you writing? Do you want to continue this part?
Yeah, so you asked me what I was writing, and the boys ran off to go do whatever they wanted to do and had a great play date. And we started talking about it, and I had also had a New Year's resolution that I was going to start telling people I was writing. So up until that point, I had started writing this during COVID, and I hadn't told anybody about it because I didn't really know if it was going to become anything. I doubted my abilities, and I was also facing quite a few rejections at that point. So it was something I had kept very to myself. And you asked, and my New Year's resolution was to tell people, and so Jenna was the first person that I actually told the full extent of this universe I was making. Because when I was querying, I was only telling people I was writing one trilogy. Because if you're a debut novelist, trying to get one book is difficult. 3, ambitious. 9 is just insanity. Like, no one's going to take the bet on you because you haven't done it yet. And so I was like, I'm just going to tell her the way I see this, and you listened, and you asked for it, and read it, and here we are. And it's just, I mean, it goes to show that if you speak what you believe in or what your dreams are, they definitely have a higher chance of coming true.
She, and what was crazy is that if you've read this, one of the main characters is named Hal, which is...
I was going to ask about that.
my son's name, and...
It was not on purpose. I feel like I have to like...
No, she'd already written the book.
That. I'd already written the book.
And,
it's from Megamind. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that with your kids. The bad guy's name is Hal, and I couldn't name Hal, the character in my book. I was like struggling with his name of what fit. And I tested it out the night we watched Megamind, and it was like, this is it, we're in, that's the name. And then when George actually got in the car like 2 weeks later, he's like, I have a new best friend, his name is Hal. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, the universe is on my side, I'm not insane, I'm not wasting my time, this is right. And then I pulled out the class roster, and there was no Hal on the list.
Because Hal's real name is Henry.
There were 4 Henrys, and I was like, maybe he has an imaginary friend, but I'm still gonna take it as a sign. We're still gonna go, but we did come to find out Hal is real and not what the character was named after, since there are spicy scenes, and I'm sorry.
I know, and I got to the spicy scenes, and I was like, no, 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 not my son's face, not my son's face. I will say too, like, one of the best things about doing this with somebody that was a stranger and has become like, we have very different personalities in the crying department. I cry all the time.
And then she makes me cry, and it's bad.
She cried once.
Once.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to, Ariel. But I will say this about, colleagues and people that you can find in your work is that I'm so proud that Ariel opened up to me, because the way she described the book was so thoughtful and so unbelievably detailed, and this world she was creating. I was like, people give me books all the time. And it was the way she described it. And the fact that she was so honest and was able to just put it out there was the reason why we're sitting here now, because 2 days later, I had a meeting about this imprint. And it was because how forward she was. And she wasn't and by forward, I mean, look at Ariel, she's like a lady. She wasn't pushing it on me. She was just telling me about the world, and I couldn't believe it. And this unconventional plan she has for publishing, which has really never been done. We are publishing Conform in 6 months. She'd already written her second book when she met me. So this is the other thing. She got rejections, and instead of being like, forget it, I'm done, I'm not good enough, she just started writing the second book, which is
That's amazing.
So Conform publishes, and then in 6 months, the prequel to Conform, which takes place in the same world 200 years before with a different female protagonist, publishes. And we are on book tour, and she's currently writing the second to Conform while I'm reading a book and listening to music and sleeping. So her prolificness is really so inspiring, and I'm so happy you came over that day.
I'm so happy too.
So now that Conform has been out for about 3 weeks, what has it been like for both of you to witness readers' reactions and to see it out in the world?
I mean, it's very surreal. Writing is such I don't want to call it lonely, because it's not lonely, but you do it all alone. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because it allows you to explore your thoughts in a very different way. But for the longest time, this was my secret my husband jokes that it's my mind palace, but it's this place that I just went to escape and to write and enjoy things. And so to see that come across to readers, or for them to because whether you like it or not as an author, your lived experiences find their way into your narratives. Like, there's no way to avoid it, or at least I haven't figured it out. And so to have a scene and have somebody message you and say, hey, this scene with this character spoke to me, and to like have that human connection, because that's what books are. I feel like they are just a doorway into someone else's mind that you can relate to, and I've been able to see that now with readers who feel passionately about it. And I get the fun ones who are like, I'm Team Hal or I'm Team Colin till I die, and then I have ones who are like, I started writing this when I was struggling with postpartum depression. And so this really is the ladder I built myself to get out of that. And hitting that rock bottom like gave me basically no excuse not to try. And so I've been very open about that with Jenna on the road and like talking with people. And probably the coolest thing is to have people say, I felt that in the narrative, and I felt seen because I am also struggling. And to like break through that for women, because I think it's something we wrongfully are ashamed of. And it's been able to have some really beautiful conversations with women about how they've struggled and tried to keep it a secret when they shouldn't.
That's amazing. I feel like I should cry now, too.
I'm crying.
Jenna.
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can all cry. We can cry in solidarity. So Jenna, what's it been like for you to see the first book with your brand new imprint out in the world? And also, can you just go ahead and tell the audience, in case they don't know, what an imprint is?
Yes. Well, it's been amazing. I mean, it's so exciting, and we've worked really, really hard. It's, it's been a ton of work building something new, and this is a little bit of a different model, which is exciting to me, and I think publishing could use it in some ways. And so an imprint is, before I ran a book club, and as we were running it, we were meeting tons of people and thinking about literature from a lot of different angles, And so when we landed on this idea to work with emerging talent, new writers who maybe didn't have the record to get their second or third book published, we were so excited because it felt like this huge opportunity to shine a spotlight. And so I'm publishing books now, which is so fun. I get to be part of the conversation when it comes to editorial, to cover. Like, look how beautiful this cover is, by the way. To marketing, to everything. I mean, that's why we're here in Texas, because I had to come here. And so we're publishing 20 books over the next 2.5, 3 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting though. So we have Conform, and then in February we have a 62-year-old debut writer. She's an anthropologist. Her name is Deb Curtis. She wrote a book called Laws of Love and Logic, and it is like a more literary Bridges of Madison County. Don't tell whoever wrote Bridges of Madison County that I called it more literary, but it explores a lot of different questions about love and family and sisterhood. We have a rom-com set in the world of British soccer called Abbey Offsides, which is really fun. We have Beneath. We have an epic, long, kind of tomorrow type book called Into the Blue, which is great. We have a couple mysteries coming. We have a lot, and it's so exciting. We have a book called June Baby, written by, set on Block Island, so it's like Lily King meets Ellen Hillebrand, by an author who was actually cleaning houses on Block Island while she wrote it, that I love, that comes out in June. So it's so exciting. I'm like, you didn't ask me all that, but I just told you.
So much to look forward to. It was on the list, so
okay.
You're just ahead of me here. So let's talk a little bit about your writing process, Ariel. I'm told you maybe have a specific music routine.
I do. I started writing this, like I mentioned, in COVID, and the kids were always home, so there was always noise, and there was always something to do. And anybody here who is a mother who has children, someone needs new clothes, someone needs to eat, someone's outside probably not wearing enough clothing, whatever it is. And so I had this running list in my head when I'd sit down to write, and I found it very difficult to check out of being mom for a moment and check into that creative space. And I was driving one day, and the song Busy Head by Noah Kahn came on. And while I was listening to it in the car, all of a sudden, something in my head clicked, and all the words started like flowing. And so I actually pulled over. I listened to the song several more times, like talked into my app, typed some stuff up, went home, put headphones in, played that song on repeat, And all of a sudden, this start that I had struggled with was so easy. So now, still to this day, every single scene in my book has a different song. And I will listen to that song on repeat, much to the dismay of those people close to me, until it's done. And
Which
so
is like maddening. Can you imagine?
like hundreds of times, to the point where like my husband voluntarily, he does cook a lot, I don't want to not give him credit, but he kicked me out of the kitchen like 2 weeks ago, and he's like, go finish the scene. If I have to hear the song one more time, it's over for me. And I was like, all right. So now I know at least that I just have to play it again and again, and I'm going to have like an excuse out. So poor him for showing me that. But yeah, so I listened to the same song on repeat. And there's actually science to it, because I looked it up because I couldn't figure out what it was doing. And listening to music, it activates your limbic brain system, which is where all your memories and emotions are stored. And so when you listen to music, if you ever get the chills, or how you can like remember a scene or a smell or what someone was wearing so vividly, it's actually because that part of your brain has been activated by the music. And so it becomes meditative to me, and I stop thinking about time, because as the song keeps going, I can stay in that emotional state for however long I need.
I'm so glad I asked. That's a great answer.
I mean, it's wild, right?
It is
and
wild.
she made a playlist. You just have to look up Ariel Sullivan.
It's on Spotify.
On Spotify. I'm like dying to know what some of the sex scenes were written to, but she won't tell me.
I put one up on social media. There's a closet scene, and it was to Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan, actually.
Wow.
Oh.
They don't always make sense. Sometimes you're going to look at the playlist and be like, she's crazy, and I am, but it worked, so I did it.
She also, I mean, this is the testament to how prolific she is and how hardworking she is. She writes in like the weirdest places.
I do. I love to write in my car. I know that sounds crazy, but no one needs me in my car. I'm in it a lot. If anybody with young kids, I'm going from practice to practice. I live there. I might as well make it, my office, and so I do. And I've actually gone over to Jenna's for a play date and asked, can I just write in my car in your driveway?
She said that. I was like, you can come and sit at my kitchen table, and she's like, no, thank you. She was like, you go in with the boys, bye.
But it's just, no one needs me there. If they do need me, I'm already ready to go. I'm in the car. And, normally there's nothing to do in there besides possibly throw away something that smells that my son's left in there, which is, is what it is. It's not the best smelling office, but I can play music loud, keep it on repeat, and I don't bother anybody. But I can also write anywhere I have music. So I've written airplanes, cafes, cars with you, going places. I think COVID, one of the greatest things it gave me is I never was able to get a routine, because none of us really had a routine, because everybody was just home all the time. And so it's made me very flexible in writing, and I feel very thankful for that.
So we're going to open it up to audience Q&A here in a moment. But first, Jenna, I'd love to know, you've interviewed so many authors over the years through your book club, and now in your new role as publisher, what have you brought from all your experience with Read with Jenna into your new role as a publisher?
And in fact, Amity Gage is here right now, who wrote Heartwood, My Little Queen, but we have dueling sessions.
Oh no,
I know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. She's the best. So I don't know if it's still time, sneak over to her tent. It's so funny, because somebody once asked me, who's your favorite author? And I've gotten to work with now, how many did you say? 84? I think
85.
85 different authors, although we just announced Cursed Daughter on Monday, so I think that's 86 authors for Read with Jenna. 20 authors, or maybe 19, because you've written half of them, 19 authors for 1,000 Voices. And somebody once said, who's your favorite? And it's impossible to choose. Everybody has been so lovely. And I think that's because I'm drawn to books that are, about compassionate things, that are layered and soulful. And so, of course, the people that write those are going to be that way. And so it's been a privilege of a lifetime. Read with Jenna started as a dare. My colleague, who is my age, who I set up with their husband, so that's why I'll never get fired. Just kidding. One day I'll quit and move back to Austin, don't worry. My friends who are here are already on the train trying to get me to do that any moment. What was the point? I just got stuck in Austin. That listing, that house you sent me. What was I talking about?
which author made the biggest influence, and you're saying you can't pick one. 'cause
I
of
know,
all
but
the
then what did
stories.
I said it started as a dare. My colleague, the head of NBC News, said to me, there's two conflicting articles. One says our generation is reading less than ever. One says we're reading more than ever. And I was like, you know what? My friends love to read. My sister loves to read. I get text messages all the time and DMs from people I knew in college who were like, I loved Conform, so I'll take that bet. And she was like, well, how do you want to do it? I was like, let's start a book club. And so we did 7 years ago in March. And I will just say, at any of your work, if you're not doing something you're truly passionate about, create it. Find ways, because that was not my job. My job was just like to sit next to Hoda Kotb and have fun, which is also a dream. So it's a real privilege that I get to work in this field, and I don't take any of it for granted.
That's amazing.